Well, the situation in Plateau, particularly Hurti village of Bokos local government area on the Plateau, is very pathetic because of the banditry activities of the headers who invaded villages and communities of Hurti. About 15 villages were simultaneously attacked, and over 6,000 people have been displaced and rendered homeless. Presently, as at yesterday, when we visited the Hurti as a community headquarters, we found not less than 2,000 people, mostly women and children. And of course, from the score recorded, we found in Hurti alone, they had a mass burial of over 40 people aside other villages and communities nearby that were affected. So the situation there is very, very pathetic, and it calls for necessary attention and other measures to be taken for these people to actually go back to their ancestral home state. Of course, we were able to witness the presence of security, but of course that cannot be adequate because there are villages and communities that have been sacked. Everything was razed down and there's no presence of security in that place. And of course, rainy season has set in, and without the presence of security and relief materials provided, particularly food and shelter for the people to return to their ancestral home state, it will add to the existing number of lands that have been grabbed on the plateau. Just as at last year, December, we had a record of 151 villages that have been uprooted and are currently under the occupation of the attackers. And of course, if there is no deployment of security to those areas that have been uprooted, it will still add to the very number of villages and communities that have been taken over by the bandits. So it calls for government speeded action.
And I have to ask at this point, what exactly caused the latest round of killings? How can this unjust act be addressed?
Well, from our findings, there's no any reason known to us or justified by law to have warranted these killings. But of course, from what we found out, you know, what actually happened is that people were observing their mourning over the loss of their relative. That was on the 27th day of March. And then the attackers came in and attacked the mourners, where about 12 people were killed. And then after that one, as if that wasn't enough, you know, they, of course, they were arrests made. And then according to the information available to us, the attackers felt that their leaders were arrested as a result of the first attack. And on that note, they came, you know, to kind of revenge on the native over the arrest that was made by the security agents. And then, of course, the question to be asked there is that what is a connection between the arrest made by security agents based on the available intelligence gathered that these are the people fingered in the attack, and then the locals who were there without, you know, provoking anything or giving any reason for the attack to have been meted out on them. And then lo and behold, a coordinated attack on over 15 villages were carried out simply because of the arrest that were effected by military. So that is the reason, best known to us. That is what informed the recent attack on the native of Hurti. And then it is uncalled for. This is, as far as we are concerned, is an obvious act of terrorism and banditry that has been meted out, which calls for necessary military action to be carried out so that these bad elements are dislodged from that general area. Not only that general area, including, you know, neighboring local governments like Mangu, Riom, and Barkiladi. Of course, because we have seen the influx of these attackers moving from that Bokos area into the nearby local government, which may trigger another violent eruption if proactive measures are not taken.
Now, we understand that you had there was a meeting that you were privy to, right? With some youth leaders, right? Last Friday, as well as with the Commissioner of Police. What are the next steps to be taken? What were the steps that were discussed there?
Of course, the security will always appeal that people should exercise calmness. People shouldn't take the law into their hands. That has always been the expression from the authority. But of course, it's not all about people. Of course, the people have maintained calmness, but the people are anticipating justice, and that is what part of the resolution of that meeting, that we are clamoring for justice for these innocent people killed. And of course, since there are arrests have been made, previously before now, such arrests will be made, and then we will hear order from above that the suspect will transfer to Abuja after a week or so. We see them released, and that is what the information that is circulating on the plateau, that even the recent arrests that have been made, there are also calls from the authority that of course they should be released of these individuals who have been arrested in connection with this attack and who have been the supplier of arms and ammunition to the attackers. And then how will these people be arrested? And what about the lives of people killed? Will they be restored? Will there be, we cannot talk about restitution of lives, because lives have already been lost. And then, of course, what can actually allay the fears and the concern registered by people is to ensure that there is justice. These people are arraigned, they are subjected to the wrath of the law. At least that will go a long way in not only bringing justice, but will also, be a deterrent to the people that have this kind of inclination. Terrorism is what the law frowns at. It's what the law, globally it is condemned. It is condemnable. So why should there be an exception to it in Nigeria, particularly on the plateau, when we've seen our people massacred on cold blood, children, women, aged? What have they done to deserve this, pogrom? Right.
Plateau State has enjoyed relative peace recently, in recent times. The governor has now said that this is not about farmer-herder clashes, and there's so much more at play here. Do you agree?
Of course, absolutely agree that what is happening on the plateau can never be herders-farmers clash. The herders are also into farming. We've never seen them destroying their farm crops. We've never seen them raising arms against themselves. And then farmers have never raised arms against themselves. So it can never be herders-farmers clash. This is pure act of terrorism. People who are sleeping, people who are mourning their loved ones, people who have not done any act of provocation, and terror is unleashed on them, the genocide, massacring of people, in broad daylight and even at night, without any conflict, coming in between them, without any justifiable, reasons that this is the cause of it. Even if at all there is any reason as to why terror attack should be, maybe if there is any provocation, shouldn't the law be allowed to take its course? Shouldn't there be a report to the appropriate authorities for proper investigation? But some people, just because they want to take over the land, they don't want, the declaration by the federal government, and under this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declaring, a state of emergency on food security. They don't want Bokos and Plateau people who have largely been contributing agriculturally to witness bumper harvest this year. Because of course, from our own experiences, what we have observed over time is that whenever rainy season is setting in, this same terrorist element will come in to ensure that people don't cultivate their farmlands. And of course, it has largely affected food security in the country. And that's why we are calling on the federal government to maintain its stance that declaration of emergency on food security should stand, and therefore a war on terrorism should be intensified. And this bad element on the plateau should be dislodged. Not only on the plateau, wherever terrorism is being carried out, is being meted out on innocent people, government should rise up to its responsibility and ensure that there is an end to this, ignoble task that
all right,
Fulani militants and other terrorist elements have already declared in this country.
All right. I mean, Solomon, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us and just giving us a bit of insight following that meeting, that high-level meeting that was held on Sunday. Once again, thank you, Solomon Dalyop. He is the national president of Berom Youth Association, just giving us a bit of insight.